Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the Blast / Ordinals market. My God, things are absolutely going crazy in the last 24 hours. We cannot wait to get into all of that stuff and more in just a moment. Just a reminder, I'm your host, B-Check. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary, and we are delighted to say happy Friday. We've got through a pretty insane week, been incredibly busy, so much stuff going on. Looking forward to just not stopping over the weekend, probably either. This market is completely insane. Cannot wait to get into all of it. But just a reminder again that we do not know anything for sure. This is not financial advice. Please do proceed with caution, do your own research, and exercise some or all of your own judgment, if at all possible. Legendary, with that little bit of housekeeping out of the way, delighted to say that it seems like our audio issues are sorted. We are back. The market is back. Things are moving nicely. How are you feeling on this Friday, the 1st of March?
Man, GM, it has been a week. We had Portal Coin, we had you transitioning into a robot yesterday with the audio issues. We had Blast launching. We have Ordinals going crazy. Honestly, I'm happy that the weekend is coming because I know I can just be unbothered and in front of my screen and continue to be a degen. I have no distraction. I have nothing planned for the weekend other than just being an explorer on Blast, and I'm here for it. I love it.
It's so interesting. Like, I just think people need to read these signals. Like, for all the people who, I don't know, just are not seeing what's in front of them, in the sense that just watch people's behavior, like watch people's action, watch people's feelings and opinions when they kind of come out. Like, when that's what Legendary is doing over the weekend, just like, right, I've cleared my schedule, I'm just going to explore Blast. Like, that's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that like a successful, uh relatively responsible, like professional-ish man is just like, gonna clear the weekend, I'm super excited about Blast, like that's what I'm gonna do. And I don't think you're alone in that. I think that's something like, although I do plan to try to take some time off because this week's been crazy on a number of fronts. Like, I do need to allocate a portion of time to just getting on top of Blast and like figuring out everything, where things are, what my favorite protocols are going to be, like what I like to use the most. I just sent a message in our chat a moment ago asking, well, no, I just asked you off air, like what's our favorite decks there now? Like, do we have one? I used Thruster for something a little bit ago. Maybe there'll be another one that I want to use. Just got to explore and find out what we like most, so that we can share it next week. Um, any reflections, Legendary, on your kind of, maybe we'll go straight into it, but just any reflections of your first 24 hours of craziness?
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine put it perfectly. He said Blast is basically the Macau of layer 2 solutions. Everything is degenerate, everything is gamified. You use a swap like Blade Swap, you have daily loot boxes that you can open just for swapping based on your swapping volume. I talked off air to you about a project that I wanted to see. What are they doing? Is this an opportunity to get a whitelist? Can we do something for our community, et cetera, et cetera? And they're like, look, we don't have whitelist spots anymore, but we can offer you, write the thread and you get a quote unquote lucky whitelist or 3 lucky whitelist spots. And I was like, okay, what the fuck is a lucky whitelist spot? And they were like, it's a 35% chance that it turns into an actual whitelist. And I was like, okay, then, you can get a 20% chance that I'm actually going to write this thread for you guys. Everything is degenerate. Everything is centered around gambling. And it kind of makes sense if you look at the incentive structure that Pacman is building with using the dApps, not leaving. And we'll get into all the details throughout the show for sure. But just the general thought of it, everything is gamified. Everything wants you to put more money into it and have chances to win more points, towards the airdrop. So it makes sense that the protocols building on that very blockchain try to apply a similarly degenerate logic.
Yeah, I found it hilarious when you told me this lucky whitelist concept. And then I was thinking, okay, maybe we could do a lucky sponsorship option for potential sponsors. Like, yes, you can pay 50% of our rate, but you'll only get 50% chance that we actually do it. You know, like, I think maybe that's the model we're working towards, where everything has to be a game of chance in some way. And yes, you could pay full price. But why would you do that? Why not introduce some type of level of risk or percentage chance instead and have fun with it? Who knows whether the thing that you guarantee or that you allegedly guarantee is actually going to happen? Why not just gamble on it instead? Look, I think there's a lot more stuff going on Blast than just gambling, and we're going to get into all of that and more. We're going to look at the raw data and why it's impressive. Going to look at some of the incentives and how they've been designed, and also some of the FUD around that. I see a question in the comments from Diablito saying, if you haven't done anything with Blast yet, are you basically out in the cold? Can you farm or not? Maybe once we've spoken through some of the incentives, you'll be able to make that decision for yourself, and we address some of the FUD that has come up. And then we're also going to get into ordinals. Ordinals are absolutely cooking. Just almost speechless, to the point where I'd mentioned node monks were a great looking buy a week or two ago, and even from yesterday they were at 0.45 and they've ripped up to 0.6, almost 0.6 now, which is pretty crazy. We'll definitely want to dive in more there, and then maybe spend a little bit of time dealing with anything else that's going on in the market. So let's get into the daily snapshot to get you all the headlines first before we get into a bigger discussion. As always, this is coming from the snapshot, which is pinned up top. If you do find it brings you some value today, please do give it a like. So let's get into it, starting with the price action. We've got crypto. Bitcoin is down 1% at 62.1K. ETH is at 3.4K. Solana is up a few percent, pushing past $130 for the first time in a while. Headlines: Blast launches and does almost 600,000 ETH, $2 billion of volume. That was when I last checked a couple of hours ago. Number two, Ordinals surge with node monks up to 0.55 BTC and BTC puppets at 0.24. Node monks have kept going up since I last wrote that. Interesting price ratio there between puppets and node monks, almost trading at half, which is interesting to see. And finally, Blur announces time for something new in April. I wonder how Blur is going to fit in to this whole Blast game. Some notable sales: Dmitry Cherniak Ringer sold for 18.88 ETH. The William Mapan Anticyclone sold for 14 ETH, which is good to see some quality art sales selling high. And a CryptoPunk hoodie sold for 142 ETH as well. In terms of the floor prices, we've got CryptoPunks at 58.9, Bored Apes at 22.3, Mutants at 3.9, DGods at 2.7, Captains at 5.3, Azuki at 5.8, Penguins down 4% at 18.5, Mad Lads at 191 Solana, Nouns winning bid was at 7.9 ETH. Legendary, that is the price action. Those are the headlines. I had a specific question for you first, and it's to do with the general NFT prices and the types of people who might be moving over to Blast. Do you see a potential pullback in the NFT market in general as a consequence of all of this Blast activity, given that a lot of the people who use Blur are NFT people? A lot of people bridging over to Blast will be NFT people as well. What are your thoughts there? I'm just going to share the heat map from Mintify at the same time to see what kind of price action we've been seeing in the market. You're still on mute, mate.
Wonderful. Thank you. I have a pretty strong opinion on that. I feel like a lot of people were hoping that the $2 billion unlock will go back into the NFT market, and we're kind of estimating that you can just leave the Blast ecosystem without having to face any consequences. And it was, if you think about how Pac-Man used to build and used to build so far, he got to the point, or the team got to the point where they had $2 billion in TVL, and they don't want to lose that. They're not let anyone bridge out of that without losing points or whatever. TVL now is at $1.7 billion. So they are maintaining 85% of the 2 billion. So this is why people who are hoping to see a billion, say, leave the ecosystem and flow into the NFT market will be very disappointed, because that's definitely not going to happen at all. Plus, a lot of the momentum on the NFT market is so driven by the airdrop meta. You can tell that by the Wassies, right? I was like, I FOMOed into one at 1.7 ETH. Quite enjoy the community in the chat, to be honest, but obviously they did pull down to, they corrected down to 1.069 ETH.
Okay.
So almost down 65-ish% on the day. They got their pump airdrop. There's been a snapshot. People who have bought yesterday were too late. I bought more also in speculation of further airdrops that were announced. It's unclear if there's been a snapshot for those or not. At least it's unclear for many of them. So you have those two things: A, Blast liquidity staying in Blast, and B, a lot of the momentum in NFTs being airdrop driven. And that all in a pumping market. So yes, there's going to be significant pullbacks while this is the situation that we're facing. If ETH stabilizes for a while, people get used to Blast and will chill on there, then we might see more money flowing back into NFTs. But I wouldn't have expected the Blast launch to be a catalyst that fuels NFT markets at all.
Look, I very much agree with that, in the sense that, so I guess there's two parts to this question. A, is money going to go back to the NFT market? And B, is money going to actually be leaving the NFT market to go and participate in this bigger Blast game? And that's the kind of second question I was alluding to. I definitely agree with you on the first part, which is, I don't think that money's coming off Blast. Maybe little bits that people want to try to, I don't know, maybe smaller amounts from smaller people, or small amounts might come back. But in like, I don't think the majority is going to go anywhere. I think that's going to stay, because the game goes on and the incentives are designed for you to try to keep your capital there, interact with the protocols on Blast in order to get the Blast airdrop. So I think that happens. But I think the bigger question, this is what I was leaning towards, is that I think we could see more liquidity go into Blast. But it's interesting, because I do see, this is why I think that. I mean, we already read one question in the comments, which was, oh, are you out in the cold if you haven't done anything already? We've received multiple comments, both in Discord, in private chats, in the comments over the past few weeks as we've been covering Blast, kind of asking like, oh, is it too late? Is it too late? Is it too late? Like, if the attention, this is I don't know how big of an if it is, because I think that Pac-Man and that team are masters of keeping attention. If the attention kind of continues in the way that it does, all of those people will want to FOMO in, I think. I'm not saying that goes into a particular asset. It just means they want to get involved on the chain. And for the average person, they don't have 1, 5, 10, 20 to just throw around across different chains. They might need to liquidate certain things that they maybe don't care about as much in order to participate into the game. So this is one way that I'm thinking the NFT market, forget about receiving the liquidity of that's unlocking from Blast. I'm thinking it could bleed, because people who don't have excessive spare capital will want to get involved in the Blast game at some point in time. What do you think about this thesis? That's my kind of early thinking. And then I can see T-Ro's hand is raised, Oxy's hand is raised. Want to get to those in just a moment. Legendary first.
I think it's an excellent thesis. Look, you have this massive aggregated airdrop opportunity going on with Blast. Obviously, you have the Blast points, you have the Blast gold points being distributed from using protocols on there by the devs from their own allocation. You have protocol native tokens, where that's going to be YOLO with a platform like YOLO Games, etc., etc. So you have, then we had Packpot on yesterday, where they were like, if you use their app, you can also farm their token, another partner's token. two blast allocations, your own two blast goal allocations, your own blast points, and all on top of the native yield that you already have on blast. So this is an opportunity that has so many levels to the pyramid that it will continue to attract capital. It will also reward people who are more active, in the sense of you have those multipliers that basically accelerate the rate at which you will be accumulating points on blast, depending on the amount of protocols that you're using. So there's so many pull factors and so many incentives being created right there that it just outshines other L tools in terms of, oh, I can go to Scroll and farm, I don't know, ambient finance there and be a liquidity pool provider, or I can go to ambient finance on blast and farm like fucking 4 tokens at once by doing the very same thing. So I do agree with your thesis.
I mean, I know it hasn't happened yet, but the way you that final sentence is the kick in the teeth, let's say teeth, for me, in the sense that why would you deposit your liquidity anywhere else right now? Like save for protocol risks and things going down and people rugging. Like there's just the incentives have stacked in a way that are pretty insane. And we're going to go through that to explain that to people with the visuals. If you're listening, we'll explain it properly. If you're watching live on X or live on YouTube, you'll be able to see some of the visuals of how the incentives are stacking. We're going to go through that in just a moment to make it clear for people. But let's go to Tiro first. Welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts on the beginning of Blast season?
It's pumping off, and you learn about new projects and what's tied into the protocol and seeing what's being built on it. And now is your time to suss those out and do your investigation work to see what you want to possibly invest in that's worthwhile, that you're passionate about, and do your research, check out the different things that are being built, and pop into spaces, read TLDR and a Discord or a Twitter a thread or something to get you up to speed so you know where you want to put that money. And you guys said a couple things. You're like, where else would you want to put your money right now? And I was reading your daily update, and I think I got one on you guys. You guys almost never do this. I woke up and I have something, but you guys did kind of touch on it. It's going to be in your snapshot. It says Robinhood to list whiff. That's dog whiff hat. Yep. And then the one thing that I posted in the comments, that I looked at my Solana wallet, my Phantom wallet this morning or late last night, I saw I was airdropped C-Whiff, which is cat whiff hat. And the TLDR on that is, I'm reading the tweet here, is posted 16 hours ago. It's from the official C-Whiff handle, blue check mark and all that. Seems like it's all good to go and kosher. It says, cats out of the bag. We did an airdrop to the 15K Solana Mobile Saga Genesis NFT holders, and then they did another 100K airdrop to the Chapter 2 pre-order NFT holders. So those are the people that pre-ordered the Solana mobile phone. And then they also most recently dropped 40K to whiff holders, dog whiff hat holders. Very and cool. now they're beginning a airdrop to a variety of Jupe holders.
Okay. Very cool.
So that's some information if you're in the Solana network, and you might check your wallet and you might have something cool in there. So I just wanted to add that to you guys, and I don't want to disrupt. I know you guys are doing a whole ordinal thing. I'm going to be here to watch, listen, because I don't know shit about it.
Thanks very much, Tiro. And thank you very much. Like, honestly, one of the things I saw Tyler tweet about this yesterday, we've been saying this for a while. It's going to get exceptionally difficult for us to include all stuff. At the moment, it's just literally not possible to include everything, either in the snapshot or even on the show. So definitely do share the things that we miss in the comments, or bring it up if you get the opportunity quickly at the start of the show before we get into the headline. So thank you very much for that, Tiro. We are Saga Genesis holders, so maybe we need to give that a little check. Appreciate that. Oxy, welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts on the Blast season beginning?
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm kind of like what Legendary said. It's like a little adventure where you're exploring something new that just has so many different twists and turns to it when you find different projects that you're kind of digging into and things, which is a lot of fun. I guess related to the attention side of things, is there, in trying to play devil's advocate, is there a time where the attention to like trying to stack these points and then stack more points and stack more points and stack more points like starts to run out a little bit? I guess, what are your like, I guess, contrarian thoughts? I know you guys are clearly in the mindset of it's the attention, the team is so good at garnering attention that you don't think that's going to run out. But I guess, what's the flip side? Is there is there a point where it does start getting tedious?
Oxy, you know what you're doing? You're doing this thing that I used to do as a professional person. You're looking at the counter arguments and like trying to find them. Like, as a former lawyer, I used to do this all the time, and I actually noticed this in business, where when people come to me with ideas of like potential collaboration, honestly, the first thing in my head is always like, but what's wrong with it? Why doesn't it work? Like, what's the thing? And I think it is generally and genuinely like a very smart approach to be having those thoughts as part of your thought process. Like, it really is. You've got to be skeptical. You've got to have, you've got to kind of consider those things. However, my counter to that is, well, it's not actually a counter, right? It's just the way things have lined up for Blast is that they're so far ahead of other L2s in the sense that they've genuinely dropped something innovative. And look, remember, we're talking about points on the one hand, but if you strip all the points away, there is a non-zero chance that a hell of a lot of L2 liquidity and other stuff would still go to Blast because you earn yield on your ETH natively. Like, that is just a really, like, if you take all the points away, and I know we speak about the points a lot because that's what people are interested in. They're interested in farming the airdrop. But there's the core thesis for Blast, taking the points away, is that there's all this idle ETH that does not earn interest on it. We're going to fix that. So if you just look at the product, it's a significantly better product than the other L2s. And now maybe there are other mechanisms that other people are going to do to implement to create to do similar things. But just from that perspective is what I'd say, at least as things stand, that's what their real advantage is. And then you put the marketing stuff on top of that. That's where the even bigger advantage kind of comes in. So I appreciate the question, and I think it's good to be thinking in that respect. But it's kind of, I don't know. I think it's kind of missing the fundamental point of what Blast is. I don't know if you want to come back on that, Oxy. Then I'll give Legendary a chance to come in.
Yeah, you're right. Because you kind of get blinded. Like, using too much logic, you kind of get blinded by the marketing and the points and all that kind of stuff. So that is a really helpful visualization to peel it back like that and look at the baseline utility behind the entire ecosystem.
Yeah. So
that helps a lot. Sounds like I need to be more degen. And where's Funky when you need him to remortgage my house?
Well, we do not necessarily recommend that. That was very entertaining to find out, to be fair. So maybe from that perspective, it would be nice to know someone else was doing that. Legendary, I think you wanted to come in first, and then we've got Jack and Kusho with their hands raised too. Definitely want to get to them.
Very much agree with the take. I think fundamentally, as you said, it's still a good layer 2 solution to have. And I think also, if you think more in terms of the complexity of the incentive structures, like, you could make the point, you're stacking layers and layers on incentives on top of one another, and it will get oversaturated. But if you look at someone like, who was it, OSF, who deposited 1,000 ETH, for him to keep his 10x multiplier as an early depositor, he needs to be active in so many protocols and find a way to distribute those 1,000 ETH across various protocols in a way that unlocks all of his multipliers and be on top of that while he's doing everything else that he's doing. He might be able to do that, but I bet that a lot of the big depositors aren't able to do that. And this is when you kind of unlock like extra opportunity for like the smaller to mid depositors who just have maybe more time, more resources to optimize their point farming strategies, and you kind of counterbalance that oversaturation. I had people reaching out in my DMs who were like, oh shit, I deposit a load of money in Blast, hoping like for a decent ROI, and now I actually need to find the time to deal with it to maximize those points, because otherwise my points will get devalued because everyone else who is earning a bonus is catching up to me. So you're balancing those bigger deposits by whales who just wanted to throw in money and go away and come back in May and claim a token, with people who might have more resources in terms of times, but less so in terms of money. So very much agree with B's take on that, but that's just an additional perspective I wanted to add to it.
Okay. Look, I think we're jumping around a little bit. I want to provide a little bit of structure here to get people understanding some core aspects to this kind of unlock, and then deal with some of that FUD that you mentioned, Legendary, because I just want to set that up properly so people properly understand what happened there. There was an interesting exchange where Pac-Man was explaining some of the thinking, which we want to get into. So first, Jack and Kusho, I see you with your hands raised. Just want to explain this for the audience first, and then we're going to come for your thoughts in just a little bit. So first, some core numbers from the past, I don't know, it's not even 24 hours, right? It's however many hours, 667,000 ETH. That's more than $2 billion of volume. You've got almost 55,000 total wallets, 1.1 million transactions. So a lot of activity happening on Blast almost straight away. So that's good to see. Now, in terms of the incentives, let's set them out first, and then we'll talk about why people had issues with them, because this is the key question everyone is trying to answer. Like, is it worth me still participating? Is it, is this something that I should be doing or not? Well, here are the incentives, and then you can try to figure that out for yourself, depending on your own capital and needs. So Zeneca tweeted this tweet, said, okay, I finally bridged again to Blast mainnet and saw the new Ponzinomics. Just when you thought it could get any crazier, seriously, going to be a wild couple of months. And some people thought the Blast liquidity was going to flow off Blast. So very much echoing the same sentiments we said there. There will be no liquidity leaving Blast. I've been saying that for quite some time too. Here is some visualizations. Remember, we said we're going to share this on video if you're watching, but also if you are just listening in, we'll explain it to you. So the first layer of kind of Ponzinomics is you can earn more points by bridging and inviting people. You still get a bonus on your invites points, but now you get a bonus on their Blast Gold points too. So the more your invites use dApps on Blast, the more that you earn. Blast Gold is the portion of the Blast airdrop which will go to the developers. So that's an additional aspect of points that you can use. So that's part of the bridging and inviting. Next, you have multipliers. So you can earn multipliers on your points by using certain categories of dApps. And you can see those when you are logged in on the mainnet page. In addition, you've got dApp airdrops. So 50% of the Blast airdrop is going to developers via Blast Gold. So that's what I just mentioned. dApps can keep Blast Gold for themselves, but the best dApps have already committed to giving all their Blast Gold to users. Nice little nudge from the Blast team there, saying that the best people, the best builders, will just give away all of the money that was supposed to be for them to their users. So that is the Blast Gold allocation, which you can potentially get a portion of by participating on the app, on the various apps. And then on top of that, not only are you rewarded for your balance, but now you're rewarding for using dApps too. So here's a nice little visualization where you've got yield plus points plus multipliers plus dApp airdrops. So like that's the kind of layers of the Ponzinomics, as Zeneca called it. Legendary, we'll pause there for a second. What are your reflections? I think this is probably the most helpful visualization for people who want to try to get a visual sense of the layers of incentives.
It's not a pyramid. It's just multiple layers of circles, which are getting bigger and bigger. I like the visualization a lot. I think, on a very serious note, it is the beauty in it, in my opinion, it's its complexity, in the sense of the game theory that will go into it. Will you focus on getting as many categories as you can to get the max multiplier for your points? Will you focus on being super active and involved with a couple protocols only to go for their Blast gold allocation. Plus, on top of that, the native airdrop of the token that many of those platforms will have as well, because liquidity for like most of us is obviously limited. You can't focus on everything, and it will be very fascinating. And this is what I meant by wanting to, spend my weekend on, to like explore what I think for me is an optimum strategy to maximize my point, or my EV, my estimated value,
Sure.
by May, out of my activities on Blast. And
Got
I
it.
think when there's so much complexity, you will have a lot of people, you will have friction, in a sense that people won't optimize their capital. And that just opens up more opportunities for people who are willing to spend the time and think about how they want to approach Blast.
I completely accept what you're saying. I just think once you wrap your head around it, I don't know how complicated it actually is. So this is going to be my fault. I can see some people in the comments a little bit confused. I'm going to do one more explanation, which also deals with some of the FUD about it that we've seen. So first, you put your ETH in. That ETH earns yield, which normally you would need to buy staked ETH in order to earn yield. Now you don't need to do that. You just chuck your ETH in, you're earning yield. So you're making money already. You're not going to view that as making money because you're a degenerate and want to like be making loads of money. But look, your ETH is getting staked natively. So you're making money. On top of that, for putting your money in, you get yield. Sorry, you get points. So your staked ETH is earning points, which is going to get you the Blast token. That's the second way you're making. Then you take that ETH and you use decentralized applications on Blast. And certain ones have multipliers. The FUD that has existed on Blast so far is that the people who've deposited loads of money are looking at this saying, hang on a second, look at all these multipliers. These people who are just using loads of apps are going to be able to catch up to our points, diluting us. That was the FUD that had kind of existed. And Pac-Man kind of said, well, yes, because we're trying to incentivize usage now as well. You've still got a truckload of points. You're still going to keep earning a truckload of points. However, you're going to need to try to be active in order to keep the ratio of you as like a whale and other smaller users who are using the protocol a lot. In order to keep that distance, like you're going to also need to use the thing. So if anything, I think that's really good because it's aspirational for the lower depositor, because it means that like, look, if I actually go and do stuff here, I'm going to accrue more points. Like that is good for the common person, the average kind of participant. Then, so that's the third element. And then the fourth one is, look, by using those protocols themselves are going to give you their own native token, because they are likely to be doing their own protocol, their own token launch. So I think once you get that sense, and I think that visual is pretty helpful for that, it's fairly straightforward. But I appreciate it's a lot to deal with for people who are maybe like coming at this cold, or maybe have been away for a little bit. I just saw one comment in the comments by Ale Ulitra asking the question, do we know of a thread or resource for people who've been kind of out of the space for a while and are coming back in to help hit the ground running? I wrote an article in the Snapshot, which is my weekly newsletter, goes out every Friday. In fact, today's edition has just gone out in November the 20th or something. If you click in my bio, go to the Snapshot link, and there is like an introductory article on Blast from November. So if you're completely lost, that would be a good resource to start with. Legendary, any final points on that? Want to hear from Jack, want to hear from Kusho, and then we want to hit ordinals pretty hard.
Yeah, let's hear from Jack and Kusho first, because I don't have anything to add right now.
Let's do it. Jack, welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts on Blast and how the incentives kind of stack up on each other? Are you participating? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, he's just a genius. He's a Ponzi genius. He's like, whatever you want to call it. Like, I have wild admiration for him. If you went on the show yesterday, I've already got rid of all my morals. So the morality of this just is not a factor to me. I'm here for the wins. And he's producing them hand over fist. I think this idea that I've seen on the timeline that he's basically like, look, you can take your money out. It's going to be worth 10 times less if you do it, but you can do it. It's fine to do. We're not stopping you. We're not reducing the rewards that we've already promised you. We're just making them 10 times less valuable. I feel like the guy in The Social Network, where he sat behind the desk signing a paper where he thinks they're his lawyers, but they're not his lawyers. And then he realizes as his shares are absolutely worthless, and he's just like absolutely furious. But for some reason, my degenerate heart is just full of admiration for this guy, and I will keep my ETH in there, and I will just ride this thing to zero or Valhalla, and that's just who I am, and I've accepted myself as that person, and I just don't give a fuck what anyone thinks of me.
Fair enough, Jack. I don't know what morals have got to do with it necessarily. We're just throwing some money into a protocol, man. Like it's not good or bad necessarily. It's just some L2, some wonderful L2 activity. That's all it is. Kusho, welcome to the stage, my friend. I know you had something to say on this. We're going to pivot into ordinals in just a moment. What are your thoughts? Are you participating? Are you enjoying? Are you here for the ride?
GM, yes, I'm participating fully participating 100%. Referee says play ball. For me, it's like this is one of the plays that many people underrate in Web3, which is like the easiest way to retain attention is just to make money for the people who are participating in whatever thing that you're building. Like it's pretty straightforward, and these guys know how to do it, and they're doing it on multiple levels. And I feel like it's a thing where they're developing a culture of rewarding users. They're building that culture into other projects that will be building on top of Blast. And it's an interesting thing to see because not many people do the same thing on other L2s, but we see many projects in Blast also taking on this kind of like paradigm where all of them are trying to reward holders. It's like a contest of who rewards the holders best. And that kind of helps the attention remain in Blast. Even if you wanted to take your ETH out and you hear that, oh, this project is going to do an airdrop and this other project is going to do an airdrop and Blast is going to do an airdrop, you're probably going to hesitate. Like when this whole thing started, everybody was of the opinion that people are just locking money up, and then by the time the money gets unlocked, people are going to come back out and then claim the Blast airdrop. And it's like these guys sit down in the back of his house and it's like, y'all don't even know what's coming. And it's like, you guys think you're going to take your money out, but he already knows the attention game that he's going to play in order to keep your money in. And it's just the game, like it's just the nature of the game. And it's very admirable. Like Jack said, I have high admiration for this level of practical approach to building an ecosystem. And I will be fully participating. Like I've been sleeping for a while, but I'm back. Like I'm active for Blast. Like the moment I saw you guys do a modern market special on Blast, I was like, yeah, I'm in.
That's cool, man. I'm glad you think so. An interesting point that you made, which I just wanted to touch on, was that the community aspect. I know people say community all the time, like, yeah, community is really important, but we've spoken to some teams now who are building out on Blast, and you're right in the sense that they're building out a culture to build on Blast. Like it's just never been such a public thing to know who's involved in building out on a chain. Like what's the situation, who's involved, how are they related to each other. Like I just haven't been aware of that, and I appreciate I haven't been in crypto forever. It's just the last few years since I came into the space in 2021. But like every time a chain, an L2 goes live or L2 starts building things out, like you don't know, right? You don't know who's building things. You've got to DM someone to find out what the protocols are. Whereas at the moment, you're seeing like crazy collaboration between all of the protocols, like crazy engagement for all of the protocols. It seems very, very energetic. it's like very, very energetic because of the way they designed the competition, because of the way they've designed everything. So from that perspective, I think it's very interesting that there does seem to be a culture of collaboration and energy and excitement that like protocols are coming to launch. And on some level, some of these protocols that will do just fairly boring, basic tasks that you can do basically anywhere else. But because it's happening as part of this ecosystem, it's provided this level of energy that is just not existing before. Legendary, any final reflection on that before we get into ordinal season?
Yeah, very much agree on the collaborative aspect. Look, we could keep talking about Blast for the rest of the show, but we only have 15 minutes left. We still have the Web3 roundup to go through, so let's maybe straight transition into ordinals.
Let's do it. In fact, let's do the Web3 roundup, and then we'll have the whole 15 minutes for ordinals. So without having to break for it. So just to get you up to speed with what else has been happening in the space in the past 24 hours, from the snapshot up top, Magic Eden became the NFT marketplace with most market share at almost 30%. No small amount, but due to their ordinals volume, I suspect, with being one of the only marketplaces that has ordinals integrated. Number 2, Robinhood to list WIF. I think people are pretty excited about that. Number 3, Athena reports $2.4 million of revenue in week 1. That's a protocol we reported on last week. Next, $600 million of GBTC was sold into the market, but Bitcoin seems to be holding firm. We've been speaking a lot about Bitcoin ETF inflows the last few weeks, looking very, very strong. In some more news, $7.2 trillion asset manager Vanguard CEO steps down. Arguably, suggested reason is that he faded the Bitcoin ETFs and therefore has been asked to step aside. Next, Tyler Hobbs releases 29 generatively designed pieces of concrete. Love to see generative art in all forms. And finally, Puppet MaxiBiz mints and becomes a quick 40x on Bitcoin. Tyler reported the floor is up to 0.02 BTC, $1,200, and flying right now. It was a $26 mint this morning, a quick 40x, and still moving. Legendary, that is the Web3 roundup from the snapshot. Let's get into the ordinal side of things. We reported that the MaxiBiz mint happened yesterday. Node monks are flying to almost 0.6 ETH floor now. They were 0.45 last night. Bitcoin puppets are as high as 0.23 right now as we speak. What is going on, Legendary? What are your thoughts on the ordinal season we're experiencing? Would love to hear from Jack too in a second, who has his hand raised.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be slowing down, which in a market that is pumping as aggressively as BTC is a very, very strong sign. And I bought a Puppet MaxiBiz, a PMB this morning. Bought it like 0.02 BTC, so I'm like up 40-ish%. And when I woke up this morning, I was like, do I buy something that did a 40x overnight? And do I like mid-curve it by being like, nah, it did pump too much? And I was like, fuck it. That's a mid-curve take. The left curve way to look at it is to see that if you go on Magic Eden, you have 200 purchases pending. Obviously, it takes a long time to check out on ordinals, right? So like, let's go for it. Let's be the 201st one to purchase it. No, all jokes aside, it's seriously impressive if, again, you have this very strong momentum in BTC and you see ordinals still moving, and you see, if you speak to people like NFT Boy, I had a call with him early this week, and he's like, look, this is being built, this is an investment opportunity, this is coming. That VC got involved. Like, you see so much interest moving into that space that it's very rare to see something like that.
Interesting stuff. I'm just sharing the screen for people who are watching on YouTube and X, and these Puppet MaxiBiz, I said it the other day when I saw them, they definitely made me laugh. I think they're pretty cool. Obviously, a kind of clash between OMBs and the puppets themselves. They're pretty fun. They're definitely pretty fun. And as you said, there are 23 buys pending. We mentioned one of the things about the Magic Eden Bitcoin marketplace is that you can always see this buy pending thing in the corner. And I can't lie, there is a bit of a dopamine hit that you get when you see that that's a really high number. Like even now, seeing the little fire emoji and 23 buys pending is pretty exciting. It gets you going for sure. Jack, what are your thoughts on the Puppet Maxi Biz mint at 0.02? I know you're a buyer. Would you be a buyer here? What's your thought on this derivative?
I am just I'm euphoric. That's where I'm at right now. B-check. Like I actually got one whitelist, so that was I am up tremendously on this bag, but I ain't selling anytime soon. This thing's going to 0.1, so I'm just gonna ride it out. NFA. I'm joking. I'm not even serious, but at the same time, it's definitely going to 0.1. I think it's just wild what we're seeing right now on Ordinals. I literally the top 3 projects. If my math is correct, and remember everyone, if you're first time on the show, I am definitely an idiot. So everything I say, just take it with a huge pinch of salt. And I cannot do math, so please
We know that
check
already, Jack. Carry
everything. On. Okay, so first off, you have node monks that through the and you've got to correlate these things. You get basically a free mint, and immediately the market just absolutely bombs upwards. I know what they call it. They call it a green D word. I'm not going to stoop that low, but literally that's what the market was. So you have something that was at 0.4 going to 0.59, with which my math on node monks makes it $10,000 increase in a day, in 24 hours. Then you have the puppets, which went from 0.14 floor to basically a 0.24 floor, which is 6,000 increase on a freaking 8K asset. So you buy it for 8K and it immediately is worth 6K more the following day. And I just tie this all back to Magic Eden. As you mentioned, they're the ones taking the taker's fee on this, which is 2%. They made $400,000 on just those free collections yesterday. So I know we talked a little bit about how are they possibly gonna provide enough value to the space when they're trying to provide that to all 3 ecosystems, being ETH, Sol, and Bitcoin. But they are all doing an Amazon model of just basically not making profit to gain market share. If they use these takers fees across the 3 chains, I think trading Bitcoin ordinals right now on ME might be a really severely underrated play. And the best thing is it's basically one of the only places you can do it, and it does give you that euphoric fire pending. When I woke up this morning, there were 137 pending transactions on this collection. So yeah, it's wild. I think it's still very, very early. There's a bunch of new projects gonna come out before the halving. There's a lot more narratives. You've got Opcat and stuff coming in as well, which I'm not going to bore the audience with, but there is 4 big releases. I'll very quickly go through them, which is Only Force, and we all know them. So they have a Fallen collection. You've got Ink, and I think there's a third collection which obviously Orange Eyes from OMB, the original. So yeah, 3 big collections that are due to launch basically in March. So very much the narrative isn't over, and we're still going to see a lot of liquidity injected into the space.
Awesome takes, Jack. It's really helpful to have someone who is properly participating on the Bitcoin side of things to give those thoughts. A couple of thoughts from me. One, I can't even be bothered to give that one. It's boring. The main thing is that something is happening on Bitcoin where if you launch and it's cheap meaning a small Bitcoin number, there's it's just running at the moment. Everything that looks kind of cool or kind of fun and is a small Bitcoin number, like a free-ish mint, seems to be able to get to 0.01 or 0.02 just because. So that definitely seems to be happening, which I think is interesting. Second thing, I was just looking at Puppet Maxi Biz, comparing them with Bitcoin puppets now. Somehow the puppets look the puppets are pretty funny. I've always liked the puppets, but now that I compare them with Puppet Maxi Biz, they look boring. The Puppet Maxi Biz looks like they're completely had a bender. They've been out all night, just completely wired from whatever nighttime activities they've been up to. And the Bitcoin puppets look positively chilled now. in comparison. I don't know if this is good or bad for the price, but the Puppet Maxi Bears look like they've been completely electrocuted, which I
Can
think
we
is kind
make
of fun.
this the clip of the day to pump my bags? I'm here for the positive commentary on my Ordinal buy. I love it.
I said they look electrocuted and that they've been out all night. Like that's
Yeah, that's bullish. That's
Oh,
bullish
okay.
in Web3.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
bullish.
have you seen Red Guy?
Yeah, to be fair, I can't see whose hand is. Okay, Kusho, your hand is raised. We're drawing towards the close, so make these couple ones quick. We're gonna hit Kusho. We're gonna hit Tiro, and then we want. Is that Tiro? No, it's two. We're gonna hit these two hands with some quick takes, and then we're gonna conclude. Kusho first.
First things first, it's good to always have a bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I am the ugly, unfortunately. Like, bruv, I minted a Wizard of Odds. I'm going to
Oh,
talk about my point in a second, but I minted the Wizard of Odds, and there were two major whitelist giveaways in the Discord, Ink and Puppet Maxi Bees. I missed both. So not bullish on me, bearish on me. Not gonna make it. It's a shame. I feel you guys. I feel you, Legendary. I'm sorry about that. To get to my main point though, it's like an underrated thing in the Bitcoin ecosystem is the fact that there are few smaller size collections that give you access to spots or main spots in other bigger collections,
that is a
and
good
that's not
point.
something that many people are paying attention to. So it's while it's hard to get entry into like the more high level collections, you might as well pay attention to people like people who are minting out collections at like 0.006. But then again, those collections end up getting very huge numbers of allocations to like major projects. For example, I know that so far the Wizard of Oz have had the highest number of whitelist giveaways for ink lists, and ink
Interesting.
lists have been very scarce. So while you're paying attention to projects on the Bitcoin side of things, be sure to pay attention to projects that give you access to other projects. And that's just what I want to add.
That is a great point. I've just got the Wizard of Ord up on screen. Down there, so they're at a 0.029 floor as well. They look kind of cool. Kind of like those as well. But no, you make a very good point. Like the Bitcoin ecosystem, when you look at the collections available to you, like the hot collections, all of your options that are available to you at the moment, there's just not a great deal of stuff, right? There's a limited amount. So I do think that there's this opportunity, or I think what you just said makes sense. I haven't thought about it a lot, but what you said makes sense, which is by being a part of any of the communities, when there are inevitably more communities coming in down the road, which is obviously going to happen with all of this volume happening on Ordinals, then yes, they're going to look to the existing communities to try to sell out the later collection. So I think that's a pretty smart take. I like that thinking. Toot, your hand is raised. Welcome to the stage, my friend. I believe it's your first time speaking with us, potentially, or maybe there's one other time too. What are your thoughts on Ordinal season? Why is it getting so hot, and where does it go from here?
Yo, Gmog, everybody, thanks for having me up. V-Check and Legendary. Yeah, so I'm having deja vu from 2021 of all the ETH NFTs where it was early on and there was only a few collections.
Sure.
And they basically got all the airdrops. But the best part is like you really think about it. If you bought Puppets like a few weeks ago, not only did you get a free R6 airdrop, if you boosted that R6, you got other R6. On top of that, you got whitelist for a bunch of other the PMBs, and then on top of that you got the there's another collection that you got a whitelist for, and they're literally in the top. The derivatives of Puppets are in the top 10 collection of the current trending ordinals, which is like completely insane to me, and they're so freaking redacted.
Yeah, they are for sure.
That they are flipping their original 777 collection. So the original collection, which is called the Opium, the Puppets that have a 10,001 amount are flipping the 777 collection that have a lower inscription number.
Oh,
it's like, yeah, it's amazing, dude. And I don't think you can buy this. You can't fabricate this. Like everyone's just rallying around the Puppets and the culture around it. So it's like you see a lot of collections. Like for example, the artist, the puppeteer, he was doing honoraries for people that were active in the community, not before they launched. He just saw people that were like super ultra pumped about Puppets and then started giving out honoraries versus
Cool.
the give the honoraries before the collection launches. But yeah, man, it's dope. Like the Ordinal Summer is looking like it's gonna be a fucking blast this year. You know, we're early. We're actually early for once.
Very cool. I like the comparison with 2021. I know exactly what you mean in that, like, there's just this energy and excitement about ordinals because, yep, as you say, the quantity of supply of good stuff is small, so people are kind of piling into what is available. I actually think that means that there'll be some good stuff coming down the road too. It's just they haven't had a chance to launch yet to take advantage of this stuff. I also think it means that there'll be a bunch of bad stuff too, because that will inevitably happen, seeing that there's so much volume and excitement and people want to extract that for themselves. Thanks for shouting out this opium collection. I think I did know that, but I just kind of forgot. And you're right. So that the opium, which looks like the original puppets, I've got that up on screen for people watching. So clearly a much smaller collection, but with a 0.24 floor. And the new puppet collection, Bitcoin puppets, is at 0.23. And that kind of feeds into this thing that I've said before, where if you're an artist or project leader in some way, like sometimes a bigger collection is better because you can create a velocity of transactions and velocity of buying and selling and people talking about it on the timeline. And you need a certain number of people to do that. You can't do that with 50 people or 100 people or even 500 people. You need more people involved. So I think that's an interesting thing to bring up. But guys, we are running out of time for today's show. It's been a fantastic discussion on Blast and Ordinal Season Legendary. Any final reflections? What are you going to be playing around with on the weekend? I know you've got your eyes on, just got your hands on some Ordinals. You've got your eye on some things on Blast. What are you looking into?
Yeah, very, very good question. Short comment before that. I saw we had loads of new people also requesting new ordinal faces in the audience. We are running the show for 1 hour, so we are having a bit of a tight ship when it comes to time. So apologies if we couldn't make it to you, if we couldn't bring you up on stage, but we will definitely not stop talking about ordinals. So we would love to have all of you back. In terms of what I will be looking over the weekend is I want to find a couple of interesting liquidity pools. I want to understand how, for example, the loot boxes are working on Blade Swap to see where capital is moving, what are maybe some of the smaller dexes. And I also want to explore the gaming side of things. I want to know what's going on with Senkai Glory, being that that auto battler that had also received an investment, I think, by Zagabond and also like support by the Yazukis on the timeline. As well as BAC, Blast Auto Club. So there's a couple of things where I just want to understand what's going on there, what's the status, and work my way through the list of featured protocols on the airdrop section, essentially.
Absolutely. I'm going to do the same. I need to create a list and make sure I've claimed all of my depositing points. That's going to be thing 1 to do. And then, yeah, just play around, try to deposit, try to make sure that I know which protocols I trust and take it from there. But guys, as Legendary said, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT for 1 hour. We're live on X. We are also live on X with video and live on YouTube with video, obviously, too. We would love to have you back next week. If you are new, we'd love to see you again. If you are not new, thank you so much, Legendary, for co-hosting. As always, thank you to our speakers, Jack, Oxy, Kusho, Tiro, and Toot. And thank you to everyone in the audience. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. We hope you enjoyed the conversation this week. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.